Bonjour, hi, welcome or welcome back to another coffee talk. For those of you who are not familiar with another coffee talk, it's a series and a podcast I have where every Friday I sit down with a cup of coffee. I sip on it while I talk about different topics that have been on my mind for the past week, and this week is no exception. As you're watching this, I'll be moving in a week, and the current packing situation is alarming because I feel like I've only packed maybe a third of what I have, or at least of what I intend to bring with me to my new apartment. So I'm a little bit concerned, but I know I do work well under pressure. So I'm hopeful that I will be able to pack everything on time. I don't have a choice. So I am hopeful because I know that I'll be rushing things, the closer I get to the moving date. And also, I just randomly booked myself tickets with my friends to Lisbon, Portugal for May. So I just feel like I'm in this energy of change and everything is kind of changing around me and about me. Not necessarily, but I feel like I'm hitting these very big milestones in my life. And I don't know how I feel about it. I have mixed feelings because part of me is very trusting in life. I've said that in last week's episode all about manifestation, how I trust life and how I trust myself to make the best decisions for myself at this point in time, right? And I know that I am going to learn something out of every decision I make. But there's also a part of me that's kind of scared because it's all these big milestones, as I said, happening. It's all these big girl moments that are happening. And I fear I might not be ready for them. No, that's not true. I deeply feel I have this very reassuring feeling inside of me that's telling me that none of this would be happening if I was not truly ready, or if I was not ready to at least overcome these challenges. Because it is, moving on my own will be a challenge in itself because it will require a lot of adaptation. Is that even a word? I know it is, but I don't know if I pronounced it correctly. Anyway, I will need to adapt to a lot of things. Like just time-wise, budget-wise, living on my own, being alone, not lonely, not to be confused with lonely, but it is a fear of mine that I will feel lonely. But at the same time, I just know that I'm surrounded with so many great people that I will just need to make the effort to see them. And that's something I've talked about in a couple of episodes ago when I talked about this moving situation and how it made me feel and how thankful I was for the reaction that I got around me. But there's a lot of introspection happening ever since that moment. And I'm asking myself a lot of questions, and I'm feeling this shift in a lot of things that I do and say and think about. But it's very, as scary as it may seem, it's very comforting in a way. It's so weird. That's exactly what I said about having mixed feelings. It's like all these things happening inside of me and trusting life and trusting myself and being just very cool and collected about it, but also being very excited and a little bit maybe scared. Scared is not the right word, but apprehensive, or like maybe that's not the right word either, but I'm just feeling like excited and I get nervous, maybe would be the right term. I've gone through phases of change before when a lot of things were changing, or at least a lot of things were happening all at once. So I know I am going to be able to cope with it and deal with it and embrace it, if anything. And that's what excites me about all of this, I know it doesn't sound like much, moving and planning a trip and just being very busy with work. It's like a lot of things are happening, but it's nothing I haven't been through before. It's just normally it wouldn't be all simultaneously, right? And in a way, it makes me feel a little bit I was gonna say overwhelmed, but I mean, maybe a little bit overwhelmed. But most of all, very excited and very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like, it gives me the jitters. Like I just want things to happen, but at the same time, I feel like time at the moment is my worst enemy because I feel like I'm running out of time and I have all these deadlines, which ultimately it's not really a deadline. It's like moving day and I can always manage around that. And then the trip is only in a matter of months. But it's like, I'd say that ever since the new year, so ever since the beginning of 2025, I feel like I've been constantly battling with time. I've always been in a fight with time and I felt like time was running out and I didn't manage my time well, but there's only 24 hours in a day and I need to eat and I need to sleep through that and I need to embrace some of the time that I have for myself. And I feel like lately I haven't had that much time for myself and I've been trying to force it, but in not necessarily in a very healthy way. And that's something I feel like I'm going to be able to reconnect with once I have my new place. And I know that I've talked about this in a previous coffee talk and how we shouldn't wait for things to happen and we should just create them. But I feel like having a new environment, having a new place of my own and cherishing this place and decorating this place and making it my home will definitely help with a lot of other things in my life because I've realized recently, or maybe not recently, depends on how you define recently, but in the past few weeks, in the past few months, I've realized the impact that my environment has on me, on my creativity, on my motivation, just on my well-being in general. And this is kind of the feeling that initiated this desire to move and to find a place of my own. And as I said, it's not because I'm not happy living with my sister. I cherish the relationship that we've built as roommates and it's definitely made us grow closer and I will miss that. But there is also a part of me that needs a new environment and I need a place dedicated to an office and a place dedicated to a bedroom because right now everything's happening in my bedroom. The proof is I'm sitting down in my bedroom filming this and I have my computer in front of me, which is work related. So I don't know. I feel like just having this type of change will definitely help on many levels. But as I said, I will need to adapt and I will need to reevaluate what my priorities are, how I manage my time, how I manage my resources in general. But I'm very excited and very hopeful. I do believe that individuals and human beings are always evolving, always changing. But I also believe that we all go through these intense moments of change. And I truly feel like right now it's one of them. And it's funny because when I look back at some of these milestones and some of these big moments in my life, something good has always come out of it. And it's definitely hard to hold on to that feeling because so many things are still very uncertain and so many things are still like happening, unfolding. So it's hard to predict what will be the outcome of all these things changing, of all these things happening. But as I said, I'm very, for lack of a better word, hopeful that everything will turn out great and everything will go in my favor. Obviously with some bumps in the roads because life wouldn't be life without challenges. But I am confident that whatever comes my way, I will be able to manage because that's what I've always done. And as I said, looking back, that's what has happened in the past. So I don't expect everything to go smoothly. I hope, but I don't expect it to go that way. But I feel like it's going to really help me to put a lot of things into perspective. And I feel like I need that. And that's a very good exercise that's been happening over the past few weeks while packing. I felt this need of decluttering because I have a lot of things and I don't necessarily take a lot of pride in that, but I do consider myself to be a pretty materialistic person and I'm not very proud of that, but I do hold pride into what I own, into my belongings, and a lot of what I have, I've received. It was gifted to me, and I'm so privileged and so thankful for that. But having to pack all of the things that I have has been so beneficial for the way that I see material and how unimportant it is on a day-to-day basis. Like, I do feel very grateful, and I still like all of the things that I have, and I don't know, maybe I've grown used to having that many products and that many options when it comes to perfumes, skincare, hair care, makeup, and I have a lot of it. But I've also been able to take a step back and actually go through all of the things that I have so far, because, like, as you can see, I have still a lot to go through, but it's been a very good exercise for decluttering not only my space but my mind also, and letting go of some of these things that were either, one, expired, two, unused or used a few times, and I haven't gone back to them in over like weeks and months. And it had me thinking about my childhood and how I've always struggled with sharing, and that's a conversation that I've had with somebody recently, and about how greedy I think I am. And I don't consider myself to be a very generous person. And to be able to say that out loud makes me feel very vulnerable and makes me feel like a bad person, but I know I'm not a bad person because generosity doesn't come naturally to me. But that's the thing. I am well aware of that. I know that I am not a naturally generous person, and I have to kind of push myself and go out of my way to be generous and to offer things to people, whether that's material or time or services. I'm not a very proactive person, if you will. I will just wait for people to come to me and ask for help or ask for something, and that's very important to me. You have to ask, because I don't like it when people take things for granted. And where I'm headed with that, all of this to say, having so many things and so much stuff has kind of healed my relationship with material, and how easy it was to share, and how unsignificant it is to not have this one item because I have so many other options. And circling back to what I said about childhood, I would have difficulty sharing my toys because it's not that I didn't have a lot, but in my head, sharing would mean that I would have one less item in which I could take pride in and showcase and almost brag. I know this is far-fetched, I'm well aware, but this is what's been happening in my head lately about the packing, about moving, about being alone, about cherishing my friends. And the more introspection I do, the more I realize that about myself, the less unnatural it is for me to be generous and to share and to express my love, whether that's through words, services, time, gifts. I'm just so, I don't know, I feel like there's this renewal happening, and I know I talked about changes, but it's really like almost not necessarily a rebirth, but I feel like this might be the start of a new era. And I will say this, I know this about myself, but moving has definitely become like a new personality trait for me, and everything I'm interested in and everything I'm thinking about is related one way or another to me moving to this new place and this new apartment, and I'm very happy about it. And this pattern, it reflects itself in everything that I do. I'm a person of phases, so I go through phases and they reflect themselves and the content that I create and the conversation that I have and the reflections that I have. So you could do this exercise and look back at the content I've made, and you could probably pinpoint kind of where my mind was at and what the phases were. And I get like almost hyper focused on this thing, and there's a part of me that was very scared that moving and finding a new place was going to be a phase, but ultimately I know it is not. Otherwise I would not have made that decision, because it is a very big decision to make. I would not have made it if I was not sure and certain and comfortable with that decision, and if I thought it could be a phase. Because I know that this is how I work. I know that I become not obsessed, but I become very invested in this new thing until I find a new one. Anyway, I don't know. I'm getting lost in my thoughts here. But that's the beauty of it, because frankly, when I sat down today, I knew I was going to be talking about changes, but I didn't quite know where I was going to go with that. And that's really the beauty of these coffee talks. And I know I've mentioned that before, but it's really like a source of comfort to me. It's sitting down weekly and talking, and not gonna lie, there was also a part of me that was like, I don't have time to sit down and talk today. But you know what? I'm glad I did. And I feel like I should come back to this very specific moment and remind myself of that, because as I said, I am lacking a lot of motivation lately because I feel like time is running out, and I feel like my priorities are not necessarily creating content for the podcast, for the coffee talks, but also for TikTok and Instagram. And I have this hope that everything happening right now and all these shifts happening will come back in a way to me and will make me a little bit more creative and a little bit more expressive also. But anyway, as I said, I'm getting lost in the sauce here, and I haven't had that many sips of coffee, so that, I think, is my cue to wrap it up here. Thank you so much for watching or listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting me. I truly, truly, truly mean it. Hopefully, I have made a little difference in your day today. If you would like to make a difference in mine, you know what to do. And I'm going to wish you in bonne journée.